Welcome back, my name's Steve and thank you for joining me today on my photography journey. Last week I was talking about the 70 to 200mm lens and saying that it wasn't the right fit for me, it wasn't the right range of focal lengths, and what I thought I'd do today is have a look at the pictures that I've taken since getting the Z5 and the Z30 and look at what different focal lengths I have actually used. First of all, I am currently in Madrid for work and I'm in my hotel room recording this, so that's why it's a little bit different to my usual setup, but hopefully everything looks okay and sounds okay. As always, I'm recording on the Z30 with a 35mm lens at f1.8, so as that is a DX sensor, that means it's more like about a 50mm lens. And that's something that I'm going to cover in the future as well, is the difference between FX and DX sensors. So get subscribed so that you can see that one when it comes out. Before we get into this, I think there's one thing that we really need to cover, and that is what is focal length. So focal length is actually the distance in millimeters between the sensor in your camera and the point in the lens where the light converges, where it all meets. So all the light coming in goes into the lens through all the different layers of glass that's in there and meets at a particular point before then going on to the sensor. And it's the distance between that point and the sensor that gives you your focal length. So it has nothing to do with the size of the lens itself, how long it is or anything like that. It's all internal. It's down to the positioning of that point in the lens where the light meets and the sensor itself. The main thing with it is that it determines how much of the scene in front of you fits onto the sensor, so what you get in your picture at the end of it. And the easiest way to find out what focal length your lens is to look at it. On the front of the lens is generally, well, usually on the front, but somewhere around the front of the lens will be written the size of that focal length. So like I said, this is my 35mm Nikon lens, so it's a 35mm focal length. It's a prime lens, so there's one focal length, there's not a zoom range. So my 24 to 200mm lens has a 24mm focal length at one end and a 200mm focal length at the other end, so that's a zoom lens. Whereas this is a 35mm prime lens, so there's no zooming, so it's 35mm and that's it. What's more important than the actual number that's written on your camera is what you can fit in and how you can use that lens to take the picture that you want to take of whatever is in front of you. So whether you've got a 24mm lens or a 200mm lens, it doesn't really matter. What matters is what you want to take a picture of, and from that you then determine the lens that you want to use. And something that comes into this is the field of view, and that's a combination of the lens and the camera. So for example, my Z30, because it's a DX sensor, it's a crop sensor, has a narrower field of view than my Z5, which is a full frame FX sensor when they've got the same lens attached to them. So 35mm lens on my Z30 will give a different field of view to the same lens on my Z5. And then this is where you get the term equivalent focal length. And that equivalent focal length is a way of comparing what can be seen with different lens and camera combinations. So whether that's APS-C or DX, that just means that that sensor is smaller. So then there's a kind of crop factor between a full frame camera and a cropped sensor camera. So in the case of the Nikon FX to DX, it's 1.5 times. So that means my 35mm lens that's on my FX, my Z5, will be 35mm, and that's the field of view that you can see. That's what's going on when you take that picture. When you put that lens onto the Z30, which is a cropped sensor, that means that the field of view is narrower. It's more like the field of view on a 50mm lens on an FX full frame camera. So when the term equivalent focal length comes in, you times the focal length of the lens by the crop factor to work out about what it would be on a full frame camera. So 35mm times 1.5 equals 52.5, and that is the equivalent focal length, so the equivalent field of view of my camera lens combination compared to that same lens on a full frame camera. So let's have a look at the pictures that I have taken and see which focal length I use most often. And what I want to do is, just before we get into that, I just want to cover the different ranges. So ultra wide lenses have a focal length up to about 24mm, so anything lower than that will be counted as ultra wide. Then you've got wide angle lenses, which are from about 24 to 35mm. Standard lenses are 35 to 70mm. These are roughly what we can see with our eyes, so that's why they're kind of the standard lenses. Then you've got telephoto lenses, which are something between 70 and 300mm, so these are more of a zoom lens. And then you've got super telephotos, so anything over 300mm, you're really zoomed into that subject. So all of these lenses have their place, and the only thing that matters is what you're trying to take a picture of. So let's have a look through Lightroom Classic. These are the pictures that I have taken over the last couple of years while I've had my Z5 and also my Z30, and let's see what focal lengths I've been using. So here we go, this is Lightroom, and you can see that I've got all dates selected up here, so pictures all the way back to 2013. But because I've got different cameras, got my phones and things like that on here, we have the file type. So I've just gone for RAW. So these are the pictures with my proper cameras, which are my Nikon Z5 and my Nikon Z30. And then in this column, you can see all the different focal lengths. So we go from 24mm all the way to unknown. Well, 200. Unknown, these are the ones that are from my 7 Artisans 35mm APS-C lens, because it's not a Nikon lens, so it doesn't recognize it as being a particular focal length. So let's have a look. So we've got 900 pictures at 200mm. There we go. So these more landscapey, looking at zoomed in parts of the landscape. Nice squirrel. And then let's go all the way to the other end with 24mm. Similar kind of thing, different landscapes, but obviously I'm closer up to it, so we can see the trees and things rather than having to zoom in. This is what was right in front of me, in pictures of Ruby as well. And then we've got things like this, 24.5mm. What does that mean? That means that I was using one of my zoom lenses, but hadn't gone all the way back to 24. It was just a bit above that. So we can kind of count those in as 24. But let's look at this. So 1800 pictures at 24mm. Let's see what our bigger ones are. We then have 3,207 pictures taken at 35mm. So like you can see, lots of garden ones, and this is because I've got my 35mm f1.8 lens, so I take a lot with that. Next up, we have got 50mm, where we've got 650 at this particular focal length. So that is also at the top end of my 24 to 50mm lens. So it could be that. And it's also quite a nice focal length, so you can see out in the lakes and things, trees, Ruby, the usual kind of things. And then we've also got 70mm, which is the lower range of the 70 to 200 that I borrowed. So that probably accounts for most of those. And then as you can see, most things are spread out. So I do tend to have either 900 at 200mm and 1800 at 24mm. They do tend to spread out at the two distant ends. And then at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what that number is, because it's what you take a picture of. That's all that matters. So you want the lens that will enable you to take the picture of what you want to. And like I said, I'm going on a cruise to Norway into the fjords, and I want a good lens to take pictures of everything that I see there, really, because it's the first time that I've been there, and it will be a great opportunity for me to take lots of pictures. My question is, do I want to see big wide landscapes with a super wide angle lens, or do I want to be able to zoom in on things and get a more super telephoto lens? And that's exactly the decision that I need to make based on where I'm going, what I'm going to do, to see whether it's worth investing in a new lens for that trip, or whether my current range of 24 to 200 millimeters is enough. If you've got any comments on that, any suggestions, leave them down below so that I can take that into account. I always value your opinion. We are on this journey together after all. So I think that's my conclusion, that yes, that was the focal length that I use most often, and it tended to group at 24mm, 200mm, the two ends of my longest zoom. But it very much depends on what I am taking pictures of. And that's the thing to keep in mind. It doesn't really matter what that number is, it's what you want to take a picture of. So as always, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you again next time on my photography journey. Have a great week. Bye.